I always do that on purpose. I want them to experience that. Okay? Experience that. Okay? If you don't have the co-writers in your school, you can try to contact my school. Maybe I can lend that to you. Okay? Thank you. Okay? According to your script. Okay? Okay? And taller in back and shorter in front. And then students always stand in the same place every time you practice. Okay? It may be a little bit tormenting. Okay? It may be a little bit too hard for your students. But once they understand this, they like to practice this. But you are supposed to let them know in advance, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks before the presentation. Okay? This kind of storytelling presentations. Okay? And this is also from this script. This idea actually is borrowed from Wade Girls High School's storytelling contest. Okay? So if you want to adopt this kind of contest formats, that's also perfect. Okay? So, and decide the actions for the main speakers and then for the chorus according to your script. And then the main speaker can walk around, not too far, but they always must come back to a microphone to speak. No talking while walking around. Okay? Okay. And the chorus. Okay, here we have the main speakers and the chorus. What do I mean by this? Okay, for example, when you do the storytelling, and then somehow the chorus may be standing in back of the main speaker. The main speakers may be actors or actresses, right? To act out Aesop's fables, right? To act out Aesop's fables, right? For example, let me give you a story like this, okay? For example, this one. Okay, the ants and the grasshopper. This one is so simple, right? Okay, for example, when the chorus, is speaking together. For example, they read a story like this. Okay, there once was a beautiful green grasshopper who loved to sing and dance and play every day. Of course, the main speaker or the main actor will actually try to act out those lines, right? And then when it comes to the second paragraph, there are some lines for them, right? So they are supposed to speak those lines. Understand? Okay, this is not so difficult, okay? Okay, good. And then, let's go back. Sorry. And then, the chorus can move their arms, their legs, their heads, and their bodies, but not walk around. And sometimes they can use musical instruments for emphasis, okay, to start the story or to show their feelings, okay? Or they may even use hip-hop for some, for example, the repeated lines for the chorus, okay? For example, right now my students are working on one story like this. It has a lot to do with dragons, okay? For example, in times of trouble, the dragon may wait, blah, 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 something like that. There may be a repeated part, a refrain. And then my students will take out, for example, a tambourine or something like that, some musical instruments to somehow to emphasize some of the refrains, okay? Something like this, okay? And then you can also sing a few lines of songs that fit the story. For example, take my school students, for example. There's a story about what a wonderful world. And then they will sing a song about what a wonderful world, something like that, to fit the story, okay, but no recorded music. One of the major reasons why I would like them to do this is that they can try to do the talking, okay, but it still has a lot to do with their reading, okay? You can use any activity you want, but you don't even say, Joe, I don't have enough time for my students, to let them do those activities. Fine, don't worry. Okay, just choose the activities you want, okay? Okay, and then next, because I'm a talkative person, I'm a chatterbox, so I better cut my long story short, sorry. And the next one, polish your speech, okay? What do you mean by polish your speech, okay? Polish your speech means sometimes when it comes to some special things, for example, one of the recent lessons I have been teaching concerns traveling. And then I said, oh, I feel bored, okay? Are there any, sentences, are there any, daily conversations you want to learn in terms of traveling? please write down the Chinese on the blackboard, and I will teach you those sentences in English, okay? And then they may write down something like this, okay? 请问红灯区在哪里？请问 something like that, even though, but I will try to correct them. Okay, don't worry, because you know what? They are PE challenging students, and then they're crazy, okay? They're haunted by porn, okay? So sometimes I have to correct those things, okay? But I cannot get immersed in that kind of situation. I have to correct all the things, okay? Sorry. But they say, Joe, 我想学这种英文啊，我想去哦。I just said, will you learn something like that when you go traveling? Okay. But when it comes to polish your speech, I ask them to write them down the Chinese sentences they want. Okay? And then I will teach them some English. For example, 任何马杀鸡的服务吗？ or 任何客房服务吗？ any room service or any massage services, something like that. And then, because my students definitely need English speaking, because they have to go abroad to participate in some contests. So they need that. So that's why I will use polish your speech, this kind of section to teach them. Okay? So they love it yesterday, because I taught that the day before yesterday. And yesterday when I began to teach that lesson, and then my students will ask me, Joe, can we do that again? I still have a lot of sentences I want you to teach me to speak, okay? So it still can help them to train some sentences they like. Remember, only when they want to learn something they like will they begin to develop their interest in English, okay? You may not agree with me, but I want you to give it a try, okay? And but you are supposed to be well prepared anyway, okay? And then next, presentation while reading, okay? So right now I need to move on to my while reading, okay? Of course, everyone knows vocabulary teaching and grammar teaching. How do you still use, okay, oral practices? Okay, I can do this. Okay, I think I will get started with creating a story first, or creating a stories first, okay? When I teach vocabulary, okay, I will tell you how I teach vocabulary, okay? When I teach vocabulary, first of all, I focus on pronunciation and phonics. I ask them to read vocabulary one by one first, and then to tell them the prefix and suffix first, okay? And then I ask them to make sentences on the blackboard. I only teach those sentences on the blackboard. I don't want to teach all the sentences from the textbooks, because the sentences in the textbooks are boring. I hate those sentences. Somehow they are so long. And are you going to teach more, more supplementary information? No, not me. I don't want to spend my whole time, on vocabulary teaching. No. So I always do something like that. Okay. And then sometimes I can make some variations. I may say, okay, now, once upon a time, there was a boy named Tian Yarong. Okay, now, Tian Yarong, please continue the story by using the first word in the textbook. For example, that word has a lot to do with an athlete, 运动员, and then he would say he was an athlete. Oh, the second word is participate in, and my second student has to use participate in to continue the story, and then my student will say, you see, they begin speaking. Okay? He participated a basketball game. I will say, okay, I'll write them down on the blackboard. I said, participated in a basketball game. So they know participated in, not participated a basketball activity. Understand? Okay. So I always use this to teach them vocabulary, and then they actually love this kind of vocabulary game or vocabulary activity better than making sentences. But I still ask them to copy down those sentences anyway, because I can also teach them coherence, consistency, and also English writing, because I can also teach them transitional words, because I will say something like, hey, don't you feel it is a little weird? There's no transition, there's no logic over there. Okay, and then there was a, Joe, what am I supposed to use? Okay, some people will help me. Even though they are all low achievers, there may be one higher achiever, but that that high achiever may be your lower, maybe the lower achiever in your classroom. Okay.